Yo! What's up, GameLeapers? It's me, Coach Cheese, and have you wondered what champions are secretly OP in 11.4? Well, it's your lucky day because we're going to reveal 15 champions everyone thinks are straight up trash or kind of trash when they are actually busted. Now, what's great about these champions is that they aren't picked or banned all that much, so if you want to main or one-trick a champ in Season 11, any of the champs on this list would be a worthy choice. We'll also talk about how these champions will fare next patch too, but before we do, to master any of these champions and to escape the pits of elo hell, make sure to check out the GameLeap website. We have challenger courses, guides, videos that thousands of your fellow summoners have exclusive access to, so join the family of cheese today. Links as always in the description and comment section. Alright, let's get into it, guys, and starting off the countdown is a champion who you wouldn't think was really that good because all you hear about in that bot lane is Kai'Sa, Jhin, Vayne. Well, there's another ADC that can be as good. So if you pick ASHE, guys, you can legit solo carry games. You're strong in lane and in team fights, we all know that, but there's one item buff that is behind your power. So when Riot buffed Phantom Dancer in 11.3 to give it more AD and you now need only 4 stacks to trigger its passive, it became the best second item on ASHE. Now you can still build Runar's Hurricane into close range team compositions, but PD is just better overall now. As for your mythic, well, you can choose Kraken Slayer for damage or Shield Bow for lifesteal, and Shield Bow in particular with Phantom Dancer makes you very hard to kill, and this has always been ASHE's Achilles heel. Shout out to Brad Pitt. You're an easy target, and some games you are helpless. Well, building this item combination gives you that survivability you desperately need, especially in this meta where even a cannon minion can kill you. Remember to Q to reset your auto attack animation, and you can send it in 11.4 on ASHE, guys. Now, just ahead of ASHE, guys, we have a champion. Well, she has one of the lowest win rates going around, so how on earth can she be good? Well, her win rate is low in lower elos, don't get me wrong, but as you start to become better and better with her, Zoe is actually one of the better mid laners you can choose. In fact, in Master and Above in Korea, where they have been picking her in pro play, she has close to a 60% win rate. 60%! Now, the real reason for this is your power spike and burst damage with Luden's Tempest. It is insane, like put a champion to sleep their dead level of insane, and the buffs to Horizon Focus make it a great second item. It's like a mini Deathfire Grasp in a way. You can also entertain buying a Cosmic Drive for maximum ability haste, but you do miss out on damage. So maybe if your team has a lot of damage already, bringing more spells to a fight would for sure be more useful. Now, Assassins are still scary to play against and will continue to be scary next patch because Serpent's Fang is getting buffed, so be very careful of throwing out your E like it's your Q because that's when you are most vulnerable. Just shove waves and get to that Luden spike. Now, this next champion, guys, coming in at number 13 is a super strong pick in lower levels of play, so if you want easy wins, one of the most underrated champions of 11.4 is Vi. I mean, who's been on the receiving end of a Vi ultimate this season? You just die, right? Because of the damage in the game. Well, not only is that a good reason to play her, but you have a couple of red hot builds you can choose from. So if you want damage, you can opt for Eclipse as your mythic, then Edge of Night, and then Black Cleaver. And what's great about this build is not only the damage and health you have, but next patch it will be even better because the BC is getting buffed. Now, if you want a safer, more team-oriented build, you can go for Turbo Chem Tank, and yes, this is real. The cheese is not trolling. The active from Chem Tank is obviously OP, but the mythic passive comes in clutch too. More ability haste for each major item you buy is super useful on a champion like Vi because your cooldowns are so important. So give it a try this patch and next, guys, and the wins will follow. Now we're going to head back to the mid lane for number 12 on our countdown, guys, and like many on this list, is nowhere near the best in bronze and silver, but the better you are at her, you win upwards of 52 to 53% of your games. Now, Cassiopeia hasn't been talked about nearly enough this season. Yes, you may be squishier and easier to kill because Seraph's no longer gives you a big ass shield, but your damage and pressure is as high as it's ever been. With Liandry's Anguish, your DPS is higher than any other mage if you hit your Qs, and with Cosmic Drive you can chase down anyone and spam your Twin Fang. The permanent movement speed is incredibly useful on Cass, and the ability haste is underrated too. Having your ultimate up sooner in particular is a major positive because it is such a powerful game-winning ability. So get around Cass this patch, guys. Now I'm going to show you support some love with this next pick because after getting nerfed early in Season 11, this champion hasn't been making as much noise, but it's still one of the most effective supports in the game, especially if you want to annoy the enemy carry, and who doesn't? So you might think MAOKAI isn't good anymore, but the truth is, guys, he still is, even after the nerfs. So you can build Chem Tank right off the bat like most MAOKAI players, or you can go for a Dead Man's Plate followed by a Chem Tank. You see, Dead Man's passive, guys, is unreal early in a game on a champ like MAOKAI. The bonus movement speed allows you to gap close to the squishy enemy champions with ease, and the slow you get as well means you can lock down anyone on the map when you land your W or R. Winning is still hella easy on MAOKAI support. Now we're into the top 10 underrated champions, guys, and as we start off the top 10, remember to leave a like on the the video to let us know you're enjoying the content. So yeah, number 10 is a champion who has benefited a lot from the Everfrost buff in 11.4 and is a low-key broken champion if you can pilot him. You see, for most Twisted Fate players, guys, it's hard to deal with all the Yones, the Zeds, the Akalis, the Talons, but the new and improved Everfrost lets you easily take care of them. The active gives you more CC when you ult in and stun guard someone. You can root them as that stun is about to end with your Everfrost active, and the early Kindle Gem and extra health give you the green bars you need to win those harder matchups. Build a Lich Bane and a rapid fire cannon afterwards, and you are one of the best mid to late game champions on the Rift. Now coming in at number 9, guys, we have another mage who has seen a lot more play after getting buffed in 11.2. Like Twisted Fate, this champion has also benefited from an item buff in 11.4, and this mid laner is LeBlanc. Now for any LeBlanc main, your biggest strength this season is that your burst damage is still arguably the highest in the game. Once you get your Ludens, Tempers, and Sorcerer shoes, you have all the ability, power, and magic penetration you will ever need. So when you get Cosmic Drive as your second major item, and this is where it gets spicy, you get access to 40 ability haste and the extra movement speed, which means you can create more kill opportunities and wave clear a lot easier, which has been your biggest weakness. Now if you're up against an AD assassin, it can be tricky, so getting an early Seeker's Arm Guard is always wise, but you can still dump some of these in the early game with your range and setup, just don't go full melee mode. Now ahead of LeBlanc, guys, we have honestly one of the best 1v9 champions in the game who is currently overshadowed by champions like Udyr and Hecarim, but EVELYNN is certainly a champion with as much carry potential. Now in the early game, you can full clear and chill, just make sure you ward your second buff so you don't get cheese for free, and after that it is go time. Once you get Sorcerer Shoes and Hextech Alternator, which you will build into a rocket belt, you can one-shot anyone. No champion is going to have enough magic resist in the early stages of a game to stop you from killing them. The mythic passive Rocket Belt gives you is also Giga OP because yeah, Magic Pen lets you shred the enemy defenses, especially with your ultimate. It's important though, guys, to play around the edges of fights because yeah, you don't want to get chain CC'd and die right off the bat, so be patient, wait for your charm to load, and away you go. Now who can remember that ASHE build I was telling you about? Kraken Slayer, PD, and then Infinity Edge. Well, there's another champion on the Rift that can abuse this at the next level. So if you're a top laner, you are for sure going to want to try out this trio of items on KAYLE. You see, ever since preseason started, KAYLE was by far the most oppressive champion. So Riot nerfed her repeatedly and her items to the point now where AD on hit crit KAYLE is the superior version. In fact, it's so superior that her win rate at Master and above as a top laner is 60%, and no one is talking about it. Once you have your E maxed and hit level 11, your DPS is crazy. Now the drawback of playing KAYLE is that you can sometimes find yourself 0-5 real quick, so be ready to give up CS to scale in the early going. There's no need to risk it for a biscuit, so farm up best you can, guys, and once you get Kraken Slayer and Berserker's Grease, you're good to go. Now our next pick, you might be thinking, oh, I already knew she was broken, cheese. Well, I'm not talking about this champion's usual role, I'm talking about playing the spellcaster in the mid lane. So if you like supports and utility-based champions, then Lulu mid. Guys, it's so underrated, I'm telling you. Now the big benefit of playing Lulu in the mid lane instead of bot lane is the fact you get more gold, meaning you get to your Moonstone Renewer and Staff of Flowing Water core quicker. Now another reason why Lulu can be the best mid laner in some games, if not most of them, is because there are so many popular OP champions who synergize so well with Lulu's kit. Think of Udyr, you can speed him up. Hecarim the same. Think of a Malphite, you can ult him when he lands his ultimate. Think of a Kai'Sa or a Vayne, you can peel them as well as anyone. The list is endless. So when the laning phase ends and you have your core Moonstaff build, you don't even need to farm, and this doesn't happen in low elo after 15 minutes anyway, so you're the most useful champion in that game. If you've tried this out, let the fam know how good it is in the comments. Okay, we're now at the top 5, guys, and we have big champions to reveal, but before we do, one last friendly reminder to head on over to our website when I stop talking, because you are guaranteed to improve and hard carry and win and climb. Join thousands of your fellow summoners and get amongst it. Links down below. Alright, number 5, here we go, and this champion is picked a bunch in pro play, but is still underpicked in solo queue, and the cheese doesn't know why, because he's a low-key busted pick. So if you want a champion to dominate with this patch and next, guys, then lock in VOLIBEAR. Think about this, in Korean high elo, this dude has close to a 60% win rate, and that isn't some coincidence, that's because the champion is even stronger than he looks. When you have Turbo Chemtank and Zhonya's Hourglass, and yes, you heard the cheese correctly, Zhonya's, you are not only immortal, but you hit as hard as anyone. Chemtank gives you the movement speed you need to teabag all 5 enemy champions, and Zhonya's gives you tankiness, haste, damage, and the most OP active in the game. The bear is really forgiving as well, guys, so definitely one of the best top lane picks. Okay, next up we have a champion almost everyone thinks is trash, but it's actually OP if played correctly. Now it's an AD carry whose best mythic item is actually an assassin mythic, and when you pair this with a Muramana, well, let's just say that you are as oppressive as they come. So guys, if you want to half health squishies with 1Q, Duskblade, Dark Harvest, SIVIR is the champion to do it on. And you know what's great? Next patch at 11.5, your abilities are going to do more damage with the Mirror Mana buff. So now is the time to put some hours in before everyone starts playing her. Now the 11.1 change to Duskblade that increase its AED is great for your Boomerang Blade and Ricochet, and the Mirror Mana shock damage procs on your Q and W. Now Duskblade's mythic passive comes in handy as too, because this gives you the ability haste you need to throw out multiple boomerangs during late game teamfights. Just keep in mind that your auto attacks are a very small part of your kit. Throwing out multiple boomerang blades in teamfights is where it's at. So stay at range guys and play around that cooldown. Alright, kicking off the top 3 is a champion who Riot buffed in 11.3, and this has seen his win rate go up 3% since. But the thing is, he's still not played that much because people still think he's trash. Guys, Singed is now legit, and because of that, fun again. The extra 10% AP ratio in your Q means that your scaling with AP items is good, and you no longer have to play Chem Tank Singed all the time. In fact, one build that is so much fun and carry worthy includes Rylai's Crystal Scepter first and then Imperial Mandate. It means you don't actually auto-lose after one major item, and the AP gets transferred into your buff Q, and the slow triggers Mandate's passive. So later in a game when you're just running around like a lunatic, you can stay relevant and be a real force in teamfights with Mandate proccing all over the joint. Next patch, however, bruises will be stronger, which is a little annoying for Singed with all their item buffs, but still, Singed is easily one of the most underrated champions of 11.4. Now the top 2 guys and the runner-up to the most underrated champion in the game is one who you might actually think is already broken, but not for the right reason. Now, how many of you think Duskblade KA'ZIX is busted? I mean, his win rate is only 50%, but here's the thing. The best KA'ZIX players who build Prowler's Claw win over 61% of their matches, which is one of the highest win rates out of all 150 plus champs. So if you're one of those KA'ZIX players building Duskblade or even Gore Drinker or Luden's Tempest because your bot lane didn't leash, start investing guys in Prowlers instead. You can use the claws active mid-air when you jump to cover a large distance to assassinate the enemy carriers without them even knowing it, and the extra damage you deal to that target, you really are the deadliest. Like EVELYNN though, your early game is weak, especially your clear because the jungle changes, so stay safe before your major items. Now the champion guys that is picked nowhere near as much as they should be, well, he's actually getting picked more and more, but it's still not enough. And this champion is a jungler who you need to start playing in the mid lane for this reason alone. In Faker's high elo, so Korean, this champion has an 83% win rate. I'm not making that up to prove my point, it is real. Pinch yourself if you have to. The 11.2 buffs that saw this champion's Q and R cooldowns reduced have propelled him to the top of the win rates, and when you start playing him, you have 2 builds to choose from. You can go Stridebreaker, Steris Gage, Guardian's Angel, or you can go for the standard Duskblade and the Collector setup. I should also mention that in 11.5 with Serpent's Fang buffed, which you can also build, you can benefit from this too. So the most underrated pick at the moment, guys, is Nocturne. Now let me know down below who you think is the champion players underrate the most in your elo. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and hit that bell of ours. This has been KHA'ZIX, and until tomorrow's upload.